one of this year's key collaborating partners, the OECD, is a thought leader in showcasing the challenges of unstable water resources, as well as economic tools and incentives to help manage these challenges in a sustainable way. It's a great pleasure to me, therefore, to introduce the OECD Secretary General, Angel Gurría. Warmly welcome.
Thank you. I have here the speech of Joan Rose, so I was going to start reading about the pathogens. Ministers, Mayor, Ambassador Markovic, Charlotte, of both of SIDA and very soon of the DAC, Thorny and Tony, I have to say, when I was running for this job about 11 years ago, I came to Sweden to search for the support of Sweden for the vote. And Tony was part of the team that was the interministerial team that was checking on the candidates. And I told him, he said, what are your priorities? And I said, well, my health. Well, people understood that. Everybody understood. Some people did not want to talk about it in those days, but they understood. The second thing I said is migration. Well, some people understood. Not everybody wanted to talk about it. And the third thing is, as I said, water. Nobody understood. But because of, among others, the Stockholm Water Week, which is already in the 26th edition, of course, water has become now front and center, and it has become the global issue that it deserves to be, the place that it has to have in the international priorities, and more importantly, in the coordination and in cooperation at the worldwide level. So congratulations for the good job. Now, far from being a niche concern, water is at the heart of everything we do, critical to our well-being, key growth driver, central pillar in the agenda for sustainable development. Now, just last year, the OECD and the Global Water Partnership, we produced a report called Securing Water, Sustaining Growth. We estimated that the strategic investment in water security would contribute, not cost, but would contribute about 500 billion, that's half a trillion, to global growth annually. Now, water remains high on the political agenda, with now a water-devoted SDG. Now, we say this, now, of course, you have to 17 goals and 169 targets. You had to have a water. But my God, we had to fight like hell in order to get water for the MDGs, you know, for the predecessor of the SDGs. Now, then we had to have in the SDGs, and now they unfolded into several of the targets, 169 targets. So it's not there just by coincidence or naturally. No, we had to get it there. Everybody had a better idea and a more noble undertaking about what should be in the goals. But you target the water people. We won and we got it in. So congratulations. So now the SDG calls for a new forum to bridge the water infrastructure gap. And of course, coming out of the Addis Ababa conference, it's important progress. Yet if we are to continue to rely on water to power our economies and societies forward, we'll need to invest much more in what we understand as water security. Today, the challenge of water security is global and it is growing. We estimate, for example, that by 2050, over 40% of the global population will live under severe water stress. And as global population increases, so will the tensions among the different water users. Climate change only adds more uncertainty about water availability, about water demand, and possibly more tensions between users in several basins. It's almost a cliche now that when you're talking about multinational, users of basins, of course, that is subject of very great tension. Now, the OECD has been very active on confronting water security issues. Last year, at the World Water Forum in Gurría, we released 2 milestone reports. I already mentioned the Securing Water, Sustaining Growth, this one here, but there's another one called Water Fit to Finance. This is with a question mark. And I have to say here, Ben Braga, this is a result of the cooperation between the World Water Council and the OECD, and it has a question mark because, of course, it's a rhetorical question mark. We got to get it financed. But the question is how, when, through which instruments, how are we going to do it? A lot of work ahead on getting the question mark out of the title of Fit to Finance. Both of these reports emphasize the role of water for sustainable growth and the importance of finance and investment for water security, the practicalities of water security. We're now working with countries like Brazil, with Korea itself, to implement the guidance in these reports. These include improving the use of economic instruments, reforming water allocation regimes, promoting innovation to ensure that water management and water investment contribute to a sustainable and creative economy. Now, in addition, as you know, we produced these OECD principles on water governance, which is another area in which we have been working extensively on all the governance issues and the risk management issues, and then dealing with water and the governance of water as a risk item, as a high-level risk item. And these governance principles, they constitute a significant contribution to the debate, focusing on how institutional arrangements can promote sustainable development through investment in water security. Again, we go back to the water security concept, to the water security issue, the water security target. Specifically, the principles provide 12 must-do for governments to get the enabling environment right in terms of who does what, at which scale, and the simultaneity of actions. They're already making an impact, having been included in the Technical Assistance Program of Action Against Hunger, and also the Spanish Development Cooperation Agency for their cooperation with Africa and Latin America, respectively. The Dutch are also using the principles to assess the so-called Delta and food protection programs. Now, we're proud of these efforts, but of course, there's a lot more to do. When OECD environment ministers gather in Paris in a few weeks in our environmental policy committee, we will not mince our words. Our water to-do list remains a very long one indeed. Now, for starters, we need to better understand the risks to growth and to social and economic development from poor water management, especially in developing countries. In 2015, 1 in 3 people were still without access to improved sanitation facilities. The foreign minister was saying, go for the sanitation. Well, as part of the UNSCAP, I remember that we promoted the Year of Sanitation at the UN. And of course, we put a nice latrine there in the logo. And people did not take us very seriously at the beginning until they started looking at the numbers. And looking at this, say, yes, you know, there are more than 2 billion people in a population of 7 billion who do not have access to good sanitation, just like there, you know, 1 out of 3 that did not have access to good quality water, etc. So, you know, the numbers start getting serious, and then people start taking the issues seriously. We actually, in the UNSCAP, we said, every time you say water/sanitation, water/sanitation, and our then chairman, the then Crown Prince of Orange, Willem Alexander, was always pushing us to water/sanitation until he got promoted. He became king, then we lost him, so he's just but Ushiaid must be somewhere around here who took over the chair after that. So now, there's also, in some African countries, for example, the economic losses from inadequate water supply and sanitation can amount to as much as 10% of GDP. I mean, we're looking with almost desperation to find ways of recovering growth, to get restarting growth, to get equality, etc., to get the jobs. And here we are, you know, from one single element, which is the lack of water and facilities, we're losing up to 10%. Now, once we understand how poor water management affects our economies and where the need for investment is most dire, we must implement robust policies that will enable us and our partners to invest in water security. The OECD's work on water financing aims to do this by translating the economic case for water security into an attractive investment case for public and private entities. For example, we're looking at innovative ways to better allocate risk and return between the key players. This is a key issue in better motivating investment for water and growth, and very key for investors when they are considering the possibility of investing in water. Now, in that spirit, it gives me great pleasure to announce today, here solemnly at the Stockholm Water Week, the Cathedral of Water here, except when there is, of course, a worldwide council, you know, World Water Council every 3 years. Two initiatives, two important initiatives. First, the OECD Global Coalition for Good Water Governance, which will gather hundreds of champions who endorse the principles that I mentioned a while ago. Now, we want to replicate existing world-class solutions to water's challenges in order to bridge the governance gap at local, at basin, and at national levels. Best practices will be summarized by the OECD Water Governance at a Glance report, which we will produce in order to document how much progress we're doing on the Global Coalition for Water Governance. And the second is the Roundtable on Water Finance, called Water Growth and Finance. And this is with the World Water Council, again, Ben, thank you very much, and with the Dutch government, of course, very, very dedicated to water issues. And it aims to push the boundaries of traditional thinking about financing water-related investment. It will gather knowledge and provide analytical tools to support policies to better invest in water security for sustainable growth. Each initiative will build on and feed into ongoing work at the global level, including the Heads of State panel on water. Both will count on your support if we are to stand any chance of transforming water governance and investment into sustainable development. We need all of your support. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me quote from Benjamin Franklin. When the well is dry, we know the worth of water. This gives us a stark reminder of how precious water is for mankind, how fragile we are without it, but also how long ago already the leaders of that time were thinking about the issue. Getting water governance and water investment in water security, right, are absolutely essential for the development of our economies, our societies, and for the planet. So let us continue to work together, pool our efforts in order to put water security at the heart of sustainable development. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Secretary General, for a most inspiring speech. The next speaker will be the Delegate Minister on Water from Morocco. And if you would give one sentence advice how to integrate water into the climate and how economic incentives in one sentence. I know that's difficult, but what would be your advice?
Well, we've been working very closely with the Moroccans. We've been very closely working also with the organizer of the UNFCCC itself, both with Madame Figueres and now with Madame Espinosa, who just took over and are organizing the COP22, precisely to be able to do what we said is the focus of 2016. I say it's implementation, 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 although not necessarily in that order, as we say. Now, what happens is 2015 was a dramatically productive, a great breakthrough, which got a very clear roadmap. And now we have our priorities, we have our specific targeting, we have 230 different indicators, which will be the GPS of whether we're getting in the right direction, etc. That's for the Sustainable Development Goals. And then, of course, we got COP21. We got our own guidance in terms of the taxation work that is going to be done for the whole of the world in order to get more revenues to developed and developing countries alike, etc. So a very, very good year in terms of mandates. And therefore, 2016, 2017, including COP22, is about implementation and how we're going to make these, national defined targeting happen. It's no longer intended, but now there are the commitments, which, as we know, are not sufficient to get to the 1.5 or the 2 degree target.
Where water is a heart.
So now, you put that together with water. We have seen already no more doubts about the dramatic impact of climate change on both, in some cases, the droughts, the scarcity, and in some cases, the too abundant, dramatic oversupply of water in parts of the world. And in some cases, like Australia, which is a continent in itself, sometimes simultaneously fires, droughts, and floods. You no longer have to go anywhere else just to prove it. So I think what I would say to our friends in Morocco, first of all, count on the OECD, very important. But second, we cannot look at climate change in itself. We really have to look at all the integral components of our environment, and as I said, crucial for the future of our planet.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us today.